Welcome back. Headlining your sports news, the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee has reiterated its call for the entire board of Cricket South Africa to step down so that a task team can restore the sport's health. SASCOC says its interference doesn't amount to government intervention, which the ICC and other major governing bodies are against. Its meeting with CSA is now urgent after the cricket governing body released a statement saying it's seeking legal advice.
Cricket South Africa has been in the news for all the wrong reasons recently, with allegations of maladministration and financial mismanagement. It was no surprise when the country's umbrella sport body SASCOC on Thursday called for its entire board to step down for an independent task team to take over in an effort to clean up the sport. CSA released a statement less than 24 hours after receiving a letter from SASCOC calling for its board to step down, saying it doesn't agree with the resolutions passed. But SASCOC says it's important that the board, whose members are implicated in wrongdoing, resign while the cleanup process unfolds.
We believe that to protect them and to give them the opportunity to defend or exonerate themselves from any wrongdoing, it's best that they step aside, create an unconflicted and uninhibited environment for an independent task team to review all these issues and make recommendations to SASCOC, which recommendation obviously we will share with the Members' Council and call upon them to join us in implementing.
And while CSA has expressed its willingness to engage with SASCOC, it has dubbed the mother body's actions interference. Major international governing bodies frown upon government interference and ban countries when this occurs.
We're not government, and this is not government intervention. We have noted the response from Cricket South Africa in terms of them rejecting the proposed intervention by SASCOC and their intention to take legal advice. It is rather unfortunate that Cricket South Africa and its Members' Council has taken that position and made it public without engaging with us in the first instance.
And SASCOC believes the meeting with the cricket governing body is urgent.
We have now taken a view that the meeting with Cricket South Africa is more urgent than ever, and we are sending out a request, the details of which I don't want to share publicly until they are before our member, that is Cricket South Africa and its Members' Council.
CSA were offered an opportunity to comment but declined. The body's directors of the board and Members' Council will have a joint workshop this weekend where important issues will be discussed, possibly also SASCOC's call for the board to step down. Pesinkato, SABC News, Johannesburg.
And for more on this story, I'm joined by sports lawyer Shane Wafer. Shane, welcome to The Full View. Now, SASCOC, surely they've got every right to investigate the affairs of one of its federations.
Thank you for having me. Yes, absolutely, they have every right. In terms of the National Sports Recreation and Amendment Act, as well as their constitution, they have every right to step in, get involved, and take full control of CSA if it's warranted. I think it's first good to look back at some of the steps taken by SASCOC in trying to administer the functions of Cricket South Africa. They have tried to get involved before. They have requested the report from the Dudunzi report, and unfortunately Cricket South Africa hasn't been forthcoming with that information, hence their involvement in yesterday's letter and resolution of the board.
Right, should the sports minister get involved, that's when things are going to get tricky, and that's when the ICC is going to get a bit antsy. Can we just establish that those are the parameters in which we deal with?
100%. That's one of the defining issues we must discuss, is the involvement of the International Cricket Council. Now, in terms of their constitution, any government involvement in Cricket South Africa would warrant the possible suspension and the removal of any funding from the ICC to Cricket South Africa. That would be a great issue. However, we haven't got to that stage yet. The government hasn't per se got involved yet. Yes, Minister Nathi Ntetwa has requested SASCOC's involvement, but there's still a grey area around whether or not they have got involved. In actual fact, recent interventions or recent involvement from SASCOC suggests that, in fact, they haven't placed Cricket South Africa under its administration. In fact, what they've done is informed the member council that they wish to take over control of Cricket South Africa should certain steps not be taken, and should their involvement and the issue of the report not be brought to the public light. So we haven't got there yet, but you are 100% correct. We are on the verge of a very worrying situation. Should the ICC wish to suspend Cricket South Africa, we could see ourselves facing a Zimbabwe or a Zambian cricket situation, much the same as happened earlier in the year when the ICC suspended Zimbabwe cricket for government involvement. We haven't got there yet, but we are teetering on the edge.
So what can CSA do to block SASCOC? Because it looks like they're going to try to do something. They're not going quietly, are they?
Certainly, they can raise the issue of the possible suspension by the ICC. That would most certainly bring an end to the CSA we know today. That will be a big talking point at this weekend's meetings. Secondly, I think we must establish that SASCOC has been premature in their involvement with Cricket South Africa. They do have the requisite power to get involved, but that power only derives from Cricket South Africa's failure to implement the procedures or the corrective procedures that are implemented by SASCOC. Now, we haven't got there yet. SASCOC still has to appoint the task team. SASCOC still has to do the investigation. This will take time. However, the request to ask Cricket South Africa executive members or non-executive members to step aside is a bit premature, if you ask me. One of the issues we must deal with is the possibility that Cricket South Africa will not be able to function during the task team's investigation. However, SASCOC, its acting CEO, has reiterated that Cricket South Africa hasn't been placed under administration. They intend to implement a task team, and they intend to instigate an investigation into mismanagement, malpractice, and allegations of corruption. So we haven't got there yet, but as I've said, Cricket South Africa must be wary of the implications of government getting involved.
And surely the irony can't be lost to the fact that SASCOC, a body in a mess as well, is deciding to go and sort matters out at CSA. From any sort of a standpoint, is there a leg to stand on with CSA saying, no, you guys don't have your house in order yet either?
Unfortunately not. We would like to think so. And yes, you're 100% correct. SASCOC has its own problems. They have failed to implement various aspects of the Zorman report that was released in 2018. They are dealing with their own mismanagement, malpractice allegations. However, SASCOC does have overriding jurisdiction over all federations in South Africa, including Cricket South Africa. They are well within their rights to step in and first and foremost to request information on what is going on within Cricket South Africa, what's actually happening inside behind the public eye. Why was Mr. Moroi suspended and then dismissed following the Dudunzi report? Why has the member council required its members to sign a non-disclosure agreement in order to view the report? What is so damning in that report that SASCOC and members of the media and the public cannot see? That is one of the issues we must address and which Cricket South Africa must be accountable for. SASCOC has the right to ask questions. They can't be barred. And I think that is why they've got involved now. They've had enough. It's been well over a year now since Cricket South Africa has been embroiled in this battle with itself and with various members of its board and the member councils. And I think SASCOC wants answers. They want to step in. They want to say, listen, guys, we're not going to take over yet. We can if we want to, but let's first and foremost do an investigation. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's deal with all of these issues of corruption, and let's figure out how we can fix things. I think that's one of the issues we have to focus on. Cricket South Africa has some answers. Questions that must be answered.
So why is CSA so insistent on not releasing the findings of the forensic report? Why have they gone about suspending their CEO in such a haphazard way? Surely there's got to be an end goal from their point of view. As a lawyer, when you look at this scenario, what are they hoping to gain by this, whatever they've created?
Certainly. I think it would be good to look back to 2012. The Nicholson report is very important here. And in actual fact, Cricket South Africa has failed to implement some of the recommendations from that report going now 8 years. One of the issues we have with Cricket South Africa is the non-independent and independent directors. As I'm sure you'll know, 7 of the members of the board are also the members of the member council of Cricket South Africa. So there's a huge conflict of interest there. And one of the issues we are dealing with now is this report may implicate some of those directors who are also board members. And in fact, they may be the ones blocking the release of the report because the findings are so damning. I ask myself the question, why would a body like that require its members to sign a non-disclosure agreement before reading it? And the only answer I can come up with is that the findings are so damning that they need to be kept secret, or at least they need to be kept secret for a certain amount of time to allow Cricket South Africa and its member council to figure out a way of getting out of this. A lot of those member council members might be implicated in serious corruption, and that could mean the end of their career, their reputation, as well as Cricket South Africa.
Right, so in the light of the Nicholson inquiry and the fact that so many sports administrators came out and were interviewed by Judge Nicholson and everything happened and we thought we were going to be on a road to recovery, and then we suddenly seem to have a board that's doing things that are obviously not right and they're trying to cover up. Did they really think they could get away with it? What gave them the right to think that whatever malpractice they were doing was okay?
Well, I think we have an issue of power corrupts. Now, these board members have been involved in cricket for many years. They were given the reins to run their various different unions. And I think the issue we have here is they need to be held accountable for their actions. You're 100% correct. Right. What gave them the right to act the way they did? And how did they think they would get away with it? And in actual fact, they have got away with the majority of the corruption that has been perpetrated in the last 8 years because they keep the reports to themselves. They require their members to keep quiet about any investigations into corruption. And when there are findings, they don't render those findings to their members or the public. They keep them quiet. They may or may not dismiss people who get involved or who speak up. And at the end of the day, the chickens will come to roost. Eventually, you will get caught for your mismanagement, and you will be found guilty for your corruption if it's there.
I mean, the Nicholson inquiry was quite explicit in having a body put in place its own checks and balances in the interests of transparency. How did everyone miss that? And how have we got a certain part of the board doing whatever they want and making sure that corruption is their way of life?
Certainly. Well, in actual fact, when it comes to Cricket South Africa, there's a bit of a conundrum. The Nicholson report referred to good governance principles. Now, as we know in South Africa, the King Code is used by many companies. Cricket South Africa is a non-profit company. With respect to its governance, board members are required to be independent in certain circumstances. What the Nicholson report required of Cricket South Africa was to appoint more independent board members than non-independent board members. And what happened there is Cricket South Africa kicked up a fuss and they said, no, well, we can't have that. We need more people in our board that know cricket. We don't want independent directors coming and telling us how to do our job, how to run cricket in South Africa, regardless of the fact that they're independent. We've been in the game for so many years now. We know how to run cricket. And that's the issue we have, is the member council tells the board how to do their job or what to do. Now, that's the biggest issue. The board should be running Cricket South Africa, and they should be advising the member council as to how to operate, not the other way around. And that's what the issue we have here is the member council are protecting themselves because they're the ones implicated in the corruption, and they're the ones with the power to implement the findings of the report. Now, I will give them credit. Some of the aspects of the Nicholson report were implemented correctly, but it comes down to the issue of the independence of certain directors and their involvement in the game. We can't have a situation where a corrupt official has the power or not to discipline himself for mismanagement and corruption. That's not a tenable situation, and that's one of the issues which Cricket South Africa and SASCOC must come to an agreement this weekend before the involvement of the International Cricket Council. They will be asking questions. They will address Cricket South Africa next week, and they will ask why was Minister Nathi Ntoto requested to get involved? Why did he request SASCOC to get involved? What is actually happening? Do we need to step in? Do you need to be suspended? Do you need to start from the ground up? Those questions all need to be answered. And hopefully Cricket South Africa and SASCOC can come to a meaningful understanding this weekend as to what needs to happen to move Cricket South Africa forward.
And Shane, if Cricket South Africa just decides to dig in their heels again, as a resolution from the meeting of the weekend, which, I mean, let's be honest, that's not beyond the realm of possibility. What then?
Well, we'll find ourselves in an impasse, essentially. I think, in my opinion, Cricket South Africa, there is some merit in the argument that SASCOC doesn't have the right to get immediately involved, i.e., ask members of the executive board to step aside, as well as the CEO, CFO, and company secretary must step aside during the investigation. I think that's a bit premature. If I were them, I would stick my heels in and say, listen, guys, you have the authority to do investigations. You have the authority to appoint a task team. Come and do your investigation. We'll assist you, but we won't step aside until such time as you've declared that we haven't implemented your recommendations, and you need to step in and administer Cricket South Africa. So there is merit in them sticking their heels in, and most certainly ICC looming over the head of Cricket South Africa would be a big reason why Cricket South Africa could ask SASCOC to just step back a bit and perhaps not be so aggressive in their implementation of a takeover or the administration of Cricket South Africa.
Shane Wafer, sports lawyer, thanks very much for unpacking this issue with us. And obviously, we're going to watch this space.
Thank you.
Right, so that's the ongoing saga of Cricket South Africa. We're going to get you some weather right now.